If Simon didn't say yes, there wouldn't be a Peter. If Saul didn't say yes, there wouldn't be a Paul. If Carl didn't say yes, we wouldn't have a John Paul II. And if Agnes didn't say yes, we wouldn't have a Mother Teresa. So if I don't say yes, what won't I be? What won't the church have? And what won't the world have?
Welcome to the Exposing Catholics show, where we expose the lives, interactions, and stories of Catholics. Our guest today is Father Ryan Mann. Probably my cousin, maybe not. I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll find out. So, are you a comedian? Were you doing stand-up comedy before?
So I never did stand-up comedy.
Okay.
But before I entered the seminary, I did what's called Second City comedy, which is an old like a TV show. Whose Line Is It Anyways? It's like improv comedy. So there's a troupe, usually from anywhere from 4 to 8 people. And you go on stage and you can do short form or long form. We get a suggestion, usually of a color, and then for 30 minutes we would do funny scenes about the color blue. Mm-hmm. And so I did do that before I entered the seminary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, because you brought in, I think they might still be over there. You brought in these little...
Oh, these yeah, these. Well, so we had a masquerade ball for our school fundraiser. And everyone dressed in formal masquerade things, but I don't own those. And so I wore this as my mask for my masquerade fundraiser for our school. And they went right over my glasses perfectly.
Oh, there you go.
And so I wore that, and then I got some nasty looks, so I took it off pretty quickly.
I do want to get into your vocation story.
Sure.
And I know, maybe have you graduated from that yet?
No, because I've only been ordained 10 years.
Okay.
So off camera, we talked about how certain priests get old enough to where you no longer ask them their vocation story. Like somebody's like, well, I just guess they were always a priest. I don't know. But it's the younger half of priests that you're always like, how did you become a priest? I don't know why that is, but at some age, I'm still at the age where people want to know my vocation story. So I'm 40 and I've been a priest just almost 10 years. So I still get asked, which is a very big compliment. Even though these gray hairs are coming in strong, it's leaving here and going gray here. So, yeah. So my vocation story is what you're saying?
Let's start all the way at the beginning now. So like family life and your parents' faith and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So my dad was married before my mom, and he had 2 kids, and he was Jewish. So we share the last name, but apparently not our Jewish roots. Okay, so he was Jewish, and my mom was Catholic, but I would say lapsed Catholic is a little aggressive, but certainly not an every Sunday, pray every day. That was not the world I grew up in. So I'm born into a mixed religion home. So my dad meets my mom, gets married, they have me. Born in a mixed religion home, and I'm born in Chicago. We moved to Cleveland, and technically we were Catholic. I always knew that we were, but there wasn't enough meaningfulness, faith in the home for it to have connected on a deep heart level, like an identity level. It was just like if someone asked me, I'd be like, we're Catholic. But I wouldn't have known what that meant at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Went to PSR, although it was always a fight for my mom to get me there. In fact, there's a story she tells, I think about 5th grade, where I came stomping out to the car with like some picture we colored or whatever. And I looked at her with this, like, if you think me coloring is going to make me love Jesus, you're crazy. And I crumpled up and threw it on the ground and folded my arms. And basically my mom never made me go back to PSR after that.
Oh my God.
So like 5th grade-ish, like that was it. Like we were done with my faith formation pretty much. And I don't really have much meaningful memories of the faith in our home growing up, except I remember never knowing the prayer over the meal, and that was always stressful. I remember being a kid, like we'd go to my grandparents' house, we'd pray before we ate. It was like, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts. I remember not knowing it.
Just mumbling
and I was
along.
just like very like, I don't know this, oh my God. And I felt very stressed and pressured, like somehow I'm supposed to know it. It was just an emotional memory. Which, by the way, maybe that's why I'm so adamant on that prayer nowadays, is that because people will say it wrong and it drives me nuts. So that's probably where it comes from. It's like people will say, bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts. Bless us these, not bless us and these thy gifts, but bless us for these gifts. Like, because we have these gifts, you should bless us. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, just listen to what you're saying. That makes no sense. It doesn't matter. Back to my story.
Wait. I think I say it wrong then. Say it again.
So it's supposed to go, now I'm all self-conscious.
Yeah.
I'm the world's worst priest. I can't even know how to pray here. Okay. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts.
I definitely say it wrong.
I say for these thy gifts.
Wait, am I doing it wrong now? Hold on. Bless the Lord, and these thy, no. Which we are about to receive. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy your gifts, which we are about to receive from your goodness or bounty through Christ our Lord. But when you say, bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts, it's like, bless us because you already gave us some gifts, so you should continue blessing us now. And it's just got that's
Okay, so it's and, not for.
Yeah, bless us as persons and this chicken pot pie. Yeah, that's
okay. So bless us and
now you're gonna under this video there's gonna be a lot of people that know the priest doesn't know what he's talking about. In Latin it's this, and they're gonna correct us, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm telling you, this is what drives me crazy. But anyways, so my grandparents on my mom's side, very faithful. They were probably the witnesses of the faith for me growing up. But we're not doing much religion at home. Mass once in a while with just my mom. My dad was an agnostic Jew at this point. And we get to high school, and in my parish, St. Mary's in Hudson, we do confirmation our junior year. At that point, now it's earlier, I think. Mm-hmm. And my mom, I remember, just like came up to me and said, "Hey, you're going to get confirmed this year?" And I remember it was like her saying, like, "Are you going to go to a Siberian work camp?" Like it seemed that crazy to me. Like, what? Why would I get confirmed? And I remember her face. She was so sad. Like she was like, oh, "Okay," because I think she knew, like, I'm not going to get in a fight about it. And yeah, we haven't really taken faith that seriously, but I was kind of hoping he would. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want my mom to be sad." So the next year, I'm a senior. I had a girlfriend who was a junior. She was going to get confirmed. And so I was like, well, I could just get confirmed with her. Mm-hmm. And I looked into it. If I did confirmation classes, it was once a month for 6 months. If I didn't, I'd have to go through RCA, and that was every week for 8 months. And I remember just being like, well, we'll just save time. You know, this is just very efficient. So I signed up and I went. And so I remember it's like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to ask some real questions about God and stuff. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't like smart enough to really have questions about God, but I was like, this is the time I'm supposed to do this. So this sweet woman was having like Bible study or whatever, confirmation class in her home. A bunch of high schoolers just show up. You know, like one of the like sweet church women who was like sacrificing time and energy so they could be prepared for a sacrament. Mm-hmm. And I remember she's like, everything happens for a reason. And my hand shot up. She goes, yeah. And I go, Holocaust? Really? That happened for a reason? God wants there to be a Holocaust? One of those like smart aleck high school things. It's like I didn't even think through it. It's just like, that's how I'm going to get her. Like as if the whole church was going to unravel because 17-year-old me was smart. And she's like, well, that's, you know, evil's a mystery. And I remember, people don't know. When church people don't know, they say mystery. Got it. And like, I just was kind of like, we're not going to do this. So I continued going through confirmation just to make everyone happy. And I remember I had to pick a name for confirmation. And at this point, I knew I was getting a full ride scholarship for jazz trumpet performance in college. So there was a black and white movie, I believe it was Louis Armstrong, and it was called Gabriel, Blow Your Horn. And I was like, oh, Gabriel, he's on the list of saints. I'll choose Saint Gabriel. Perfect. Mm-hmm. So we go, and confirmation was March 17th, 2001. I know that because that's my birthday. All right.
We have a very close birthday.
What's yours?
March 21st.
Oh, you can send me a little something in the mail if you want.
All right.
Thanks. Doesn't have to be
you
big.
as well.
Okay, I'll just keep the gift, you keep yours, and we won't send each other.
That sounds great.
But thank you ahead of time. So March 17th, 2001, and Abbot Grease was the one performing who, like a month later, became a bishop. And there's like 125 of us from St. Mary's. It was a huge class.
Wow. And
my last name's Mann, so I'm in the middle. As you know, we're always in the middle of everything. And I'm just watching them go through. Peter, be sealed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. Cecilia, be sealed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. Sebastian, be sealed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. And like you're just whipping through these things, doing great. I get up there and my confirmation dispenser says, Abbot, I present to you Gabriel. And he like put his thumb in the oil and he goes, Gabriel. He goes, do you know what Gabriel does? Do you know who Gabriel is and what he did? And I was 18 that day. I was turning 18. And I didn't know. And I go, oh, you know. That was my phrase. He asked me, do you know what he goes? I go, you know. That was it. And he goes, well, and he looked me in the eyes very seriously. And he said, he's the patron saint of God's messengers. It will be your task for the rest of your life to deliver God's message to the world. I thought nothing of it. I said, okay. And he goes, be sealed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. I went on my way. Within 6 months, I started practicing my faith, like actually practicing it. Within a year, I went to my first confession. Now, this is important. So I'm at jazz school, music school, and I come back to help out with Life Teen, playing trumpet in the Life Teen band, basically. Mm-hmm. And one day their speaker for their Life Night doesn't show up on the 10 Commandments. And I told the youth minister, I could do it, which I had no right saying. I don't know. I mean, it had to be the Holy Spirit or just my own stupidity or a combination. I had no right to say, oh, I could do this. I don't know I didn't know the 10 Commandments. I think I know them now. All right, and I'm a priest of 10 years. I certainly didn't know them then, okay? But I was like, I got this. And so they were like, all right. So they gave me a microphone. And I just started talking to high schoolers about the 10 Commandments, making stuff up on the spot.
Oh
but
God.
It was like, I remember like some of it was like good. Some of it was good. Some of it was like, well, we could have worked on that, you know? But like some of it was like, I remember using the analogy of like bumper lanes in bowling, that like they're not the goal, the pins are, but they keep you in the right direction. I was like, 10 Commandments aren't the goal, but they're the bumper lanes that point in the right direction. I mean, there's some stuff that I'm like, I'd still use that now. So I was like, this is unbelievable, right? And I was hooked. I loved it. So that summer I'm working for Dairy Mart, like most people. And I was working for Dairy Mart, and I went down to Steubenville to replace some magazines and whatever I was doing. And I knew the Franciscan University Steubenville conference was there, and I went and was that then? Back up a second. That spring I helped out at our high school retreat. And people were like, hey, did you go to confession yet? I was like, I don't think so. I hadn't gone since I was 8. Okay, and I'd gone living a life of jazz and music and all sorts of things in high school and dealing with a lot of wounds in my life. And I was like, oh. So they said, well, you should go, just get in line. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get in line and I go, I make the best confession I can. The priest didn't say anything life-changing, but he said, pray 5 Our Fathers in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I went to the youth minister. I'm like, what's the Blessed Sacrament? He goes, the Eucharist. I'm like, oh, I know that. I didn't know what the Blessed Sacrament was. So I go and I kneel down, and second Our Father, I just broke. Like just something broke inside of me. And I cried so hard for so long. So many people coming up, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay. But really what it was is from the Eucharist, I just really felt Jesus' warmth and love. And he just said 2 words to me. He just said, I know. That was it. And it's like I'm getting goosebumps now still talking about it. It's like he knew me from the inside out. That the place in me that was hurting and carrying so many burdens, but I had walled off and all these different masks and things I was doing, he knew that part of me. And it was so welcoming and kind, and it just really set a lot free in me. And within a couple months from there, I quit trumpet, and I decided to do improv comedy and acting, like everyone else, you know. And then I did that for about 1.5 years, taught, performed, things like this, and then went into the seminary after that. And going into this seminary really was that Father Damien I mentioned. He said, you should give it a year. He first told me I should go. I said, I'm not going. He said, I think you're called. I said, you don't know. And we'd argue and yell back and forth. And then he's like, give it a year. If it's not for you, your soul will be at rest and you'll be a better husband because of it. If it is for you, your soul will be at rest and you're 1 year closer. I thought, well, that's pretty good. And so I went to the seminary, and I have my journals. And I remember the first journal, the first night entry, I said, and I'd been to 3 colleges in like 3 years. So moving, FAFSA forms and moving, I was the king of this thing, right? I said, there's something about this place. I think I'm going to be here a while. Seminary was not easy for me. I didn't like it for the first many years. Some things about it I did like. Liked what I was learning. I liked the guys, but I came from improv comedy world and improv jazz world. So to be in rituals and rigid, kind of a rigid schedule almost. There's not like rigidity, but there's like a lot planned into your day.
A big change.
Yeah, like there's like the idea of spontaneity wasn't a high value in the culture of the seminary, where the place I came from, that was the value, right? So it was really different. So it was hard. Took me many years before I could finally say, God is calling me this, and I want to do it. I had a sense God was calling me it sometimes, but I didn't want to do it. And I think I didn't want to admit I wanted to do it. But one of the things I told myself every year, because every year you write an evaluation and you turn it in to say, yes, this is how I've grown this year, and yes, I want to come back. I want a 1 year leave, or I don't want to come back. And that's what you pledge to the faculty. Then they respond their own way. They could say, oh, it's nice you want to come back. You're not coming back. Or they say, we want you to take a year, or, we both agree you should go. So it's a very free process. You're not forced. It's really beautiful in that way. But every year I came up with the same litany that I would say, if Simon didn't say yes, there wouldn't be a Peter. If Saul didn't say yes, there wouldn't be a Paul. If Carl didn't say yes, we wouldn't have a John Paul II. And if Agnes didn't say yes, we wouldn't have a Mother Teresa. So if I don't say yes, what won't I be? What won't the church have? And what won't the world have? And so that was just a way every year that like that litany would come up, and I'm like, yeah, because I didn't feel called to leave for marriage. I didn't feel called to leave. Just it was hard being there. So that was a litany that kind of got me over that hump every year. And as time went on, and more retreats and more prayer and more spiritual direction and more friendships and more study, God working through all of it, more field education, my heart started opening and more to the enjoyment to finally say yes, I want to be a priest. So, and then I was ordained in May 17th, 2014. And so I've been a priest almost 10 years.
Was there anything special or crazy that stood out to you leading up to ordination?
Nothing that stands out right now. I had some significant experiences in the summer times that helped me. So I worked as a waiter and bartender almost every summer throughout the seminary. But one summer I took 10 weeks off and I went to the Institute for Priestly Formation in Omaha, Nebraska. And while out there, I had Monsignor John Estef as my spiritual director. Now, he was an exorcist. He was one of Mother Teresa's spiritual advisors, and Padre Pio was his as a small priest, young priest. And he's actually small too. But he's still alive. I think he's 95, 96. But he kicked my butt for 10 weeks. People had to do a holy hour every day. I had to do 2 holy hours a day. And we had really powerful encounters together in spiritual direction and then through there in prayer that was really life-changing for me. I always say that summer saved my baptismal vocation, meaning kept me a disciple, not even priest, it just kept me a disciple. It was really, really powerful for me to learn how to be vulnerable and receive the Lord's love and not try to earn and not try to be in prayer in a posture of, we go through most of our days in a posture of competency, but in prayer, that's not the posture that makes fruitful prayer. Childlike posture is what makes fruitful prayer. So need, trust, waiting, longing, hoping, sharing your fears, your hurts, your sorrows, your needs, like all of that is what makes rich prayer. Vulnerability is what makes beautiful prayer, not, competency. And so learning that, first off, I was totally attached to being competent or at least appearing so. And then learning how to let that down was really moving.
Did you continue stand-up while you were in seminary?
It's funny you mention that. So when they asked me, I applied to the seminary at Borromeo, they let me in and I said, I have one request. And they said, what's that? I said, on Tuesday nights, improv comedy is still going on. And in Lakewood, and I'd like to go on Tuesdays still. I'd like to still perform every Tuesday. I don't know that many people had made that request before. And they're like, well, we do need you focused. This needs to be your priority. I said, oh, it certainly will be. Just Tuesday nights, I'm going to go do that. And they're like, or at least I hope I was too, And they said, well, as long as you never miss a Wednesday morning prayer, you can do that on Tuesdays. And I didn't miss one Wednesday morning prayer. I went, and then actually a couple months in, a bunch of guys went to support me, and that was pretty cool. So I did that for a while, and then about 2 years in, 3 years in, I finally just like, okay, I'm ready to let that go. And then I would go out once in a while for fundraisers. There was another priest, actually, I think he has interviewed, Father Jacob Bear. Him and I did some fundraisers for a while, doing improv comedy together and things like that. But once you're a priest a while, you're kind of just like, okay, we don't want to be, clowns, at least in that way. We'll do it in other ways, but not in that way. So we kind of wrapped that up and put it in retirement. So, yeah. But yeah, so I did it for a while. So.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What about like jazz trumpet?
Yeah, I played a little bit in the seminary, but I stopped that pretty quickly. What jazz and music gave me, improv comedy gave me an even more satisfying way, so it's pretty easy to let it go. So yeah, I would say like jazz and music, like that goodness and beauty, it brought me into my heart rather than being walled off. It kind of had a way of getting me inside and in touch with something. Comedy got me in touch with relationships, like how to be relational and entertain and things like that. And then when Christ broke in, those two things just got transposed to a higher pitch.
Yeah.
So my heart and relationships, and that just took it to a different level then. So, but I've said people before, and I think it's true. I really think in many ways jazz saved my life. The way I was hurt and struggling in life with just things in my own heart and dynamics and relationships early on, it was really through music that I tasted beauty, and then beauty as a way of kind of suggesting to you the infinite and the mystery and what life could be.
Yeah.
So whenever you encounter something beauty, like this is the way it's supposed to be. So there's a little taste of yes. And then, so that kind of awakened my heart that, oh, there's something I'm looking for. I'm a hungry person. I'm not satisfied. I want more.
Yeah.
And then comedy took on a whole relational dynamic of me and the crowd and working with others. So that filled out a little like communion or community component. So that when Christ entered, beauty, infinite, community, I kind of already had the language of the heart that he was speaking. So I kind of knew the grammar and language of God that allowed me to then really hear Christ so powerfully and follow him.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that like people use music to cope with a lot of things and like just relationships in general, and just to have that, it's all like, even though you might not realize it at the time, like you're really looking for Christ.
Yeah.
But just to have that initial like, oh yeah, I listen to music, like it helps me work through like my feelings or whatever.
And I'd even go even add, it's not just that they're looking for Christ, they're already encountering something of him. So we would say that, all of creation is called the sacramentality of creation, right? So everything visible and physical is making present something invisible. And so like when someone goes to a song, or a certain song awakens in you or taps into something for you, you're already connecting with a dynamic that is not going to be deleted in discipleship, but completed. And so, when you're going to evangelize someone, the first move is not, if you start doing all these things, then you can be part of our church. It's like, well, first off, that hasn't ever worked. If it ever did at one point, it's not working anymore. But it's like, no, the first move is like, well, tell me what you love. What makes you come alive? What do you enjoy? And what you're tasting in there then is something that makes them human. And if you get them deep enough into their humanity, now you're resonating exactly with what I'm looking for. And then I can speak to you about, well, this is how I see this. And my favorite person to speak about when I go around and give talks is a guy named Monsignor Lorenzo Albacete. He died in 2014. He was a Puerto Rican physicist who became a priest, close friends and theological advisor to John Paul II, and I believe Pope Benedict. Wrote only one book in his day, but a lot of articles and talks and things. Okay. But his way of evangelizing culture, and he spoke with atheists, scientists, nuns. I mean, he was across the board.
Yeah.
He began with like witnessing to the fullness of our human experience, rather than trying to speak theology at people. Drives me nuts. I'm going to get all worked up on camera. Okay. But like a good example is this. So after 9/11, he was on, I believe, the Charlie Rose show or Nightline or something like that. And they asked him, hey, as a Monsignor of the Catholic Church, what did you see when the towers were falling in 9/11? He goes, I saw human death, lots of death. And he was just heartbroken as he's speaking about it, you could tell. And he goes, did your faith help you with that? He goes, no, 1,000% no. And what he was trying to convey to them was like, faith is not a looking away from pain or this world or reality.
No.
It's not a running away to a little private prayer time where everything's okay. He was trying to say, and in unpacking a little bit, is like the light shines in the darkness for disciples. So this terrible tragedy, he's in there somewhere. This is Good Friday. He's in this place of God-forsakenness. I don't need to look away. My faith doesn't console me. I still cry when things are sad. I still get angry when there's injustice. I still want things to be right and beautiful. And as he speaks these and witnesses to these things, everyone's heart can resonate.
Yeah.
So as he's saying this, he's like, what do you do? He was talking to a panel of scientists one time, and he goes, okay, yeah, science and religion, that's interesting discussions. He goes, but like, he's like, why don't I want loved ones to ever die? Why do I hate being lied to? He goes, why do I want things to be fair and just for people in the world? He goes, these desires in me, where do those come from? Why do I have them? Because it's clear people die, it's unjust, and people mistreat me and lie to me. He goes, so it's not the life I'm currently living. Where does this come from? And this is how you'd speak and engage the world. And I find it so convincing and captivating that if we can begin with our humanity, but in light of Christ. So we don't have to mention Jesus yet, but witness to the fullness of it that Jesus is at work in us as disciples. It's going to resonate. And they're going to be like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, well, this is why I found Jesus to be good news, is he promises me a life of security, of love. I can get loved ones back. There is going to be a justice. Like, and it's like, oh, and it's a lot different than, hey, here's 4 teachings, or give me a minute, let me just pray over you. And I'm good with prayer. I'm good with all that. But it's like, there's a way in which we engage the culture that I think Pope Francis has right when he says we're meant to be a church that listens and dialogues. He doesn't mean like, what do you think about our teachings? No, we have our teachings. They're from God. It means like, if you can listen to people the right way, you'll hear these little authentic human desires pop up.
Yeah.
That's what we go after. That's what we begin saying. I have that in me too. I feel that too. And now now you're friends with atheists and Muslims and all sorts of people, as well as Catholics, because there's only one humanity. There's only one world. And the good news is for us is there's also only one Savior. So what I want to propose to you resonates. It lands somewhere.
Yeah.
Got me all worked up by Albacete. So sorry. These things happen.
I cut you off before. What were you going to say?
No, we can sit on this right now.
I think he was going to say how much he loves you. 'Cause, you know,
Of course.
yeah, aren't they? They're such a cute couple, aren't they?
So, yeah, going
Thank
on.
you, by the way.
Yeah.
They're so sweet.
Going on the idea of meeting people where they're at and really engaging with them from all walks of life. I feel like a lot of maybe Protestants, non-denominational people, a lot of them are kind of like taught that and really are good at it. I mean, like they got the Bible, they got the verses, they're throwing it all at you. But I don't know if that's necessarily the same for the Catholic Church, in the sense of like people, maybe they feel like they can't go do that. They don't have the qualifications. They don't have all the stuff to go and evangelize, go meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And they might be even scared to go do that.
Yeah, because it's not normal. Like,
What do you have to say about that?
I'm going to get canceled by my own diocese if I say stuff here. I don't know that I would think that what you described that I would call evangelization. I think quoting Bible passages at people and stuff like that, I just think that sounds like a walking Wikipedia. I don't know that that's actually what evangelization is.
mm-hmm.
And I think the problem we feel is that's what we see, and so we think we have to be that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think the Catholic instinct in the faithful, whether old, young, the old lady who just prays her rosary, says, I don't know how to talk to my grandson, or the person who's a professor, I think the instinct to like, I don't want to just go and just quote scripture passages and pray with people in the mall right away and all that. I think there's an actual Catholic instinct to that. Because the unspoken message with some of those things is, gotcha. Like if I could just get you. And it's like, well, you know, it says in the scriptures that they're quoting all the time, by the way, God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God, which means if someone's being authentically loved, they're already experiencing the grammar of God. They're already tasting something of the mystery that is going to be manifest maybe in a more explicit articulation of Jesus later on in their life. Pope John Paul II, in the document Gospel of Life, I think it was, he says, in the incarnation, Jesus drew near to every man and woman of all times and places. Now, there was a lot of pushback from this in the Vatican because they wanted to say he drew near to every baptized person. But John Paul II refused to put that. He said, no, he drew near to every man and woman of all times and places. Why? Well, he's the creator. He's the God of the universe. Mm-hmm. He knows everyone by name. He can draw near to his creature. He's allowed to, for one. But two, it made it seem like baptism was creating this differentiation, and in one sense it does, absolutely. In another sense it doesn't. Everyone's made of the same stuff. Everyone's looking for the same thing. Even Thomas Aquinas teaches that. We're all looking for happiness or the good. We may be wrong about what it is, but we're looking for that. We're seeking that. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we would say we're seeking Christ. Everyone, what they think Christ is, they may be rejecting, but that's not going to be him. So why do I think needs to happen in evangelization is, I think there's a great book by Sherry Weldell called Forming Intentional Disciples, where the first stage is just befriending people and getting to know them. Mm-hmm. I think that stage can last years, and that's okay. Like, I feel like sometimes when people evangelize that way, they feel like Jesus is like, I gave you 40 hours a week. By the end of this week, you better have 2 disciples. And it's just, I'm just like, what is the pressure? I can't function like this. It's just like, I got a lot of pressures in our life. What the heck? All right. I think it's much better. Can I radiate to people that they're enjoyable, that they're gifts, that I see them, that I feel for them? Can I live out of the truth that the sacrament sacramentalized me and you, so we also are encounters with Christ, that we can be Christ for them just in our love, just in our kindness, and we don't have to say, I'm praying for you. Now, it's beautiful to say that if it's really where you're moved in that moment too. But sometimes just to say, hey, I hope all is well. I'll check in with you. And then you do check in and say, wow, this person's faithful to me. They're attentive to me. There's, oh my gosh, they actually go to church. They believe in Jesus a lot too. Interesting. You know, and maybe I'm biased with all this, but this is how what converted my dad. My dad ended up converting. I'm my dad's godfather. So my third year at the seminary. And when I asked my dad what did it, he said he looked back at all the hardships and terrible times in his life. And a lot of people around him had hope. And he said, when he started looking at them more closely, who are these people? He goes, almost every one of them was Catholic. It's not like they say, hey, you need to become Catholic. You need to repent and believe that. It wasn't that. It was, he saw the witness of people.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it was like waves on an ocean rushing over this rock. And it smoothed his heart out over time to finally open and receive the gift of Christ and the sacraments and the gospel and the way of life. Maybe it's a personality thing. You know, some people have more bold personality where they can say, Jesus loves you, I'm praying for you. They pray in restaurants and stuff. I think that's awesome. I think those stories are cool. There's healing stories. I think it's awesome. You guys interviewed Father Jacob Bear. He loves doing this stuff, praying with people, calling the Holy Spirit down. Him and I are good friends. We're really different in this approach. I just think, for me at least, evangelization cannot be summed up with a formula or a certain quotes of scripture. It's mysterious. Ultimately, to evangelize is to help someone encounter Christ. And Christ is in all that is true, good, and beautiful. Mm-hmm. And he's also in the sacraments and the scriptures, but he's also in his body, us, the church. And so it's going to be a lot more human and relational than people realize. And there's no pressure. Love is patient. And so we need to be patient as well as we let people work out their own knowledge of God and Jesus. And there'll be a time where they ask questions, they'll seek out, and that'll be a great time to then offer some things. But I tend to be a little bit different than the go get them with quotes and things of the Bible.
Yeah.
So just a different approach, I guess.
We've got something special for all our Catholic organizations. Now, before you skip past this part, it's not an ad. It's more like an incredible opportunity to take your digital presence to the next level. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Something only for our podcast listeners. We, DM Productions, have a 2-day Catholic social media makeover course. It's an online course specifically made for Catholic organizations. It will take your social media to the next level. And we make it easier than ever with our step-by-step video walkthroughs, cheat sheets, customizable templates, and more. Catholic organizations, let's start creating the quality and results that secular businesses have, but with the depth and beauty of Catholicism. Oh, and did I mention the price? $700. But remember I said I was going to let you in on a little secret? Use code DMPodcast to get it completely free. No credit card required. Just pop that code in and you're all set. Head over to www.dm.productions/social media makeover or click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
Mm-hmm. The thing with the time of like a time frame of years is really like helpful for me, and I'm probably for you too. Of like it doesn't need to be like right now.
Yeah.
Like to be consistent, yes, but you don't need to place like a deadline on it.
Yeah. If you think about it this way, everyone you meet, you're stepping into their story. So imagine everyone you meet, the Holy Spirit's writing a saint's biography with them. You're stepping in at one moment in one chapter of a long story. They've had chapters that have gone before, and there's going to be a lot of chapters independent and way past you, independent of you and past you. So it's like you're one person they're meeting along the way of their saint story. So what do you offer them in this time? What do you give them? Realizing they have their own job to do. They have their own work. But love can never be pressure or coercion or manipulation because God isn't any of those. He's totally free. He honors your freedom. He proposes. He invites. He, in some ways, says, let me share. But he never coerces, never pressures, never manipulates. Because to do that would be to violate something of the greatness of the human person. That each person has an immense dignity in God's eyes. We hear in the Old Testament, God says constantly, you are people sacred to the Lord. Like, that's pretty amazing that like the God who decided where the stars should go looks at you and says, you're sacred to me. By name, you by name. Well, this person's addicted to cocaine and doing all sorts of crazy stuff in the world. They're not even trying to be holy. Well, yeah, they're missing out on that love and that vision of their life. They don't yet know who they really are. But in God's eyes, they are. They're exactly sacred to him. He knows what he made. He doesn't make junk. And he sent his son not to condemn anyone, but to set us free, to release all the beauty that he's put in us because it's held captive until Christ touches it and sets us free. Just the other day I was doing Mass and I told people the gospel is not only look how great Jesus is. The gospel is look how great Jesus is and look how great we are. The gospel always includes your greatness. That's Pope St. John Paul II. That Christ came to reveal the greatness of man who you are. Right? It says it's his first document, the Redeemer of Man, paragraph 10. All right, at the end of that paragraph, he says, not only when you draw near to Christ, not only will you break out in praise of God, you will also marvel at the goodness of one's own existence. And he says, another name for this marveling at your own goodness after encountering Christ, another name for it is the gospel or Christianity. And he says, and it is perhaps more so in the modern world, the way of the church going forward. Now, I don't know how many people live that out or proclaim that in the church, but our proclamation is not, look how great Jesus is. That's not our only proclamation. It's, look how great Jesus is, and when you draw near to him, he will show you why you are a gift as well. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to know you're good and you're a gift and you have something to offer the world that no one else can and that you are special and unique and unrepeatable, those desires, those needs are meant to draw you to Jesus. And I think that's evangelization. That's helping people realize their humanity and the parts of them that are echoing, full of longing for a plan, a life that's beautiful, and to say, that's exactly what Jesus does in my life. And so I think that's how we start to have those dialogues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really good. Really powerful.
Front row, nice.
Of course.
She's the best.
I see exactly what you're saying, but then I also, on the other side, is like, come on, but I know what's at stake. Like, I don't have time. I don't have time for that. Like,
you don't have time either.
Get him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like that person doesn't have time. I gotta get him in. But yeah, that pressure and that like, let's go, can just push them.
So here's two scripture passages that may help that part of you. That's like, whoa. Like, all right, first one, Gospel of Mark. I think it's chapter 1. All right, Jesus heals Simon's mother-in-law, and then they bring people to him all night long. And he's healing everyone and casting out demons all night long on this town. He says late into the night. Then they all go to bed, but Jesus wakes up really early and goes and prays. And it says the apostles were looking at him. Upon finding him, they said, Master, we were looking for you. Everybody's looking for you. And he goes, well, we have to go on to the other towns. For this reason I was sent, to preach and teach to the villages of the lost house of Israel, or something like that. So he could have stayed and made really amazing saints, right? But instead he goes, I'm called to go to other towns. I've done some things here. There's more. Everyone's looking for you. I have to go to the other towns now. All right, so that's one thing to realize. Even Jesus is like, well, no, I'm just moving on. I'm just following the Father. All right. The second thing is St. Paul. All right. You have to remember what we have about St. Paul are letters he wrote to be read. All right. So it wasn't like he went into towns and it's like, all right, I'm going to admonish all of you and exhort all of you and give you all your teachings right away and then you should be set. He already had spent time with them, developing relationships, developing community, developing time. They knew his heart. Several times in his letters, he's like, you know how I loved you when I was with you. You know what you've meant to me. He could presuppose it because he took time to develop relationships. He was a tent maker. So when he went to a town, he wasn't like, hear ye, I will now speak to you of Jesus. Like, and they all like, oh, we've been waiting to hear about this one. No, he's like, instead he's like, hey, you got a hammer? I'm a tent maker. My hammer's broke. He just began to talk to people. Like, who are you? He's like, I go from town to town. I just want to tell you about the God, the universe, the meaning of life, but I'm also making tents with you. And he was in their lives day to day. They saw he ate with them. He slept with them. He worked with them. He's like, they saw him as a normal guy. And into that, through his witness and his slow proclamation over time, began to develop people who were interested. Tell us more. He drew them in and drew them in. And then he'd go to the next town. When he had enough community built, and he had had someone then in charge of that community to keep forming them, because he realized he wasn't going to do everything in one pop. Mm-hmm. He had someone else continue to journey and accompany them. He went to the next town. And then he'd send letters back to check in. Hey, I'm hearing this is going on over here. Here's some things that can help clarify. Make sure this is read in the community when they get them. Tell them I'm praying for them, and thanks for the money. It's helping the poor. And they would, okay. But it was like that accompanying piece is what you're missing. Mm-hmm. And I only say that because what's important is no one should ever treat you that way either. No one should ever say, okay, so what are your problems? All right, I'm going to heal you in 2 seconds then. It's like, that's like, it's like something unloving about that and violent. It's like, I just see you as a problem to be fixed. Rather than like, well, I'm going to journey with you, and when God moves, he'll move. Mm-hmm. Great. I'm not in charge. Like Thomas Aquinas teaches I think the most radical thing, that you can't give someone faith. Only God can give faith. All we can do is remove some of the intellectual debris that would keep them from accepting the faith.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't give anyone the faith.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty amazing, like, humbling thing. Like, oh, my job is just to witness in an attractive way and clarify some things when the conversation comes up. But, you know, there is a missionary component. So you're like, well, what about the going on? There is a sense in which you need to know the people that God's putting in your life or sending you to. You do have a task there. There is meant to be a witness and a speaking into. But I think it needs to be done rooted in relationship and not just like, if you don't repent, you're going to go to hell. Okay, who's next? Anyone else want to hear this? Yeah, I think there's got to be a little bit more humanity to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people don't get. They hear all these techniques and formulas and like, I mean, I just love my grandson and pray for him. Well, you'll probably be the best person in the world then for him to know who Jesus is because he feels loved by you. And that's going to do a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just keep like reiterating it. It's so good.
Can we just zoom on it? I'll tell you to zoom in when you edit this thing. Just like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No more drive-by evangelization.
Yeah.
You've been a priest for 10 years.
Yeah.
What has been some of the graces or highlights, or if you were to give like a top 5 like things that have happened? And actually, before you go into those, where were you before St. Basil? So like, how'd you get here?
So when I was newly ordained, I got to go to St. Charles Borromeo in Parma with the pastor, Father Jack Carlin, great guy and an amazing staff, and it's a well-run parish and good people and great experience in Parma. I loved being there for 4 years. It was really gave me a lot of foundational grounding and settling that I needed, and I was really grateful for my time there. From there, I went to St. John Newman or Neumann, depending how you want to pronounce it, in Strongsville. I was with Father Barry Garing, the pastor there. We had a lot of fun together, and there was a lot of turnover in staff, but the staff was always good to me. And I was only there about a year and a half, and then the pandemic kicked in, and so we were in quarantine at the beginning. Before quarantine was done, I knew I was coming here as pastor. So it moved pretty quick for me. Yeah. So most people's pandemic, which is kind of like an emotional and spiritual holding their breath, like when's this going to be over? When's this going to be over? Mine was like, okay, I know I'm going to be starting here. So I transitioned to here that summer. And the August 4th, Feast of St. John Vianney, August 4th, 2020. I started here at St. Basil's. So that's kind of my journey here. Some of the great moments for me in priesthood that stand out to me are dealing with people who are suffering immense traumas and seeing them grow and have hope and have healing and even forgiveness for people who hurt them. Some of the most courageous things I've ever seen, whether that trauma would be some form of sexual abuse or some sort of just painful dynamics in their family of origin, or they themselves had gotten an abortion and they just feel ostracized by the church because obviously it's great sin and they didn't know what to do and where to turn. But to see them grow in allowing themselves to be loved, to have hope, to have restoration begin to grow in their lives, those have been some of the most amazing things I've seen and witnessed. I've been able to go to World Youth Day in Poland as a priest. That was neat. Was it Poland? Yeah, it's Poland. And I've been able to see some really neat conferences and things like that. But I'd say even at the parish level, one of the neat things as a pastor, what I've been really enjoyed seeing is that like people treat you as a pastor different than a parochial vicar. Like I'm the one who's here. It's a stable presence. Mm-hmm. I'm not leaving you. I'm not going anywhere. Parochial vicars rotate. Like when I got here, Father John Mahalan was here for 1 year, then he left. Then Father Matt Jordan came here for a year, then he left. Now we got Father Jeff, who will be here for 4 years, which is great. But like I'm here for, who knows? I mean, it's 6 years, renewable 6 is the way it works, but it could be, who knows how long. And there's a sense in which people relate to you that way. They can have a little more honest, intense conversation. They can share their opinion a little more freely because it's not a relationship just coming and going. Mm-hmm. But it's also a sense of like they let you in more deeply because they know you're not just like a fad. You're here for a while. So I've enjoyed that part of being a priest as well. Recently more as a pastor, the stability of the pastor. And I think some of the most meaningful things I've been able to do was I got to teach at some places and present that were like like places that I went to get fed as a student, like that. I mentioned the Theology Body Institute. They've had me stand up and teach a couple hours of different courses when I've been there. And it's like, I remember the first time I did it, I was like in awe. Like I was looking at the podium and I was like, I've seen so many people teach here that are just like, I mean, and I'm like, it's like, and I'm like, and now I'm asked to do, and it was just really amazing, and those have been some of the really cool things for sure.
Jeez. Yeah, I know that sort of feeling of, why am I here? Like, I'm not
Totally.
worthy to be doing this. Like, are you sure you got the right guy? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And it's, I'll tell you one of my favorite things I was able to do as I was a seminarian actually when I did this, but I really love this. I was assigned to help out St. Augustine's, kind of in the near west side, West 10th in Cleveland. And I was helping out St. Augustine's in West 10th. And Father Joe McNulty was the pastor at the time. And it's a parish that helps a lot of the poor of Cleveland. They have a kitchen and a food pantry, everything. And Father Joe McNulty and Sister Carita, like heroic work. The city named a street after the two of them. So I'm like, that's when you've arrived, street, And he got sick that year. And so he's like, hey, Ryan, we're going to have you teach RCIA. I'd never taught RCIA, didn't know anything. But my favorite thing about it was in this one class she was a deaf and mentally handicapped woman. She wasn't on the streets, but she was in a group home. And a woman who was studying to become a dentist. So super educated, like doctor type, and her all in the same RCIA class. So now I was challenged with how do I proclaim the faith in a way that's intellectually rigorous and like captivating enough for doctor and mentally off, definitely deaf woman over here. And I remember just praying in the seminary and just reflecting on it. And I always had the sense that the Lord was telling me, like, this is the best training I can give you. Like, that the gospel is for everyone. And I think it was partially experiences like that made me so convinced that I have to tap into the human heart. That they both had the same desires to be seen and loved. They both had a desire of a life and a beauty and friendships that are secure and stronger so that death doesn't win in the end, that we can have life and beauty that never grows old, like that they have those kind of hearts. The intellectual capacities may be different, but the heart is the same.
Yeah.
And those are some wonderful, I don't tell this just moment right now. I don't think I put together that was one of the first times I began to wrestle with how do you connect humanity when there's so many different giftings?
Yeah. What does your shirt say?
What am I wearing? Oh, it says Acts 29. Remember Father John Ricardo?
I've seen that logo before.
So Father John Ricardo has started this ministry called Acts 29. It's helping restore the church in America by starting at the bishop and his staff level, then through pastors. And it's about helping the church regain its mission and regain working together as a family, not just a staff. And there's a great third component I can't remember right now, but it's amazing. And Father John Ricardo would be on my Mount Rushmore of preachers in the United States. He's just one of the best. Yeah.
You recommend him for the pod?
If you can get Father John Ricardo on this, I will usually have him right now. If you're wasting time with me, I would get him right away. Yeah. So I just wear swag to then point to him. So yeah, he's great. He's up in Michigan. And he's been released from parish assignment, and he works for a bunch of different, goes around different dioceses to help. And he starts at the bishop and their staff level, like I said, so that they know how to support the groups of pastors they're then going to pour into in their teams to make parishes come alive.
That's really, really important.
Yeah, and it's regaining a biblical worldview. Oh, this is the three. Nice. Regaining a biblical worldview. So one of their big understandings is that people don't see the world through the biblical lenses, and so it's hard to evaluate what God is doing and what is good and evil and what's of God and what's not. Second one is your staff needs to be a family, not a staff. Otherwise, you won't have the hard conversations necessary to make the parish vibrant. And the third thing is to ask God, what are your plans for our church? So he has plans for every parish. But what he realizes, if you don't have a biblical worldview and you don't have honest enough discussion, asking God what he's doing is never going to really come to fruition as a parish staff, if you will, because they're not going to be honest enough with each other, and they don't have the biblical worldview. So those are the three major areas, and does a lot of work with helping priests as well, and him and his team are doing some really good stuff.
Jeez.
That's that.
I like recognized the logo, but I wasn't sure what it was.
If you get it, there's only 28 chapters in the book of Acts, so this is 29th, writing the next chapter of the church.
Okay, that makes sense.
Get it? Yeah, they're pretty good marketing team. So,
you guys have a new website at St. Basil's. You also just kind of recently new logo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, since I got here. Yeah.
And you're doing social media, and actually when you're showing me around the different offices, you're like, and this office is where we do social media evangelization. And I love that, just that in general. So what about why social media evangelization? Why is that a focus?
Well, yeah. So let me first say we were really blessed. A parishioner gave us a big endowment. I'm treating that role like an endowed chair at a university. So someone gave money for us to be able to reach out more in digital ways. Mm-hmm. And so actually they gave us the money to however we saw fit. And then that's how we saw fit. But it really came from someone's generosity because, I mean, money's a real thing, right? So it's like you have limits and budgets and you only can do what you can do. So when someone steps up and makes a sacrificial gift, they've endowed that chair for 10 years. So we have a decade now set of evangelization and through digital means. So we're really excited about that, what that could be. Mm-hmm. I'm one who usually pushes back on technology quite a bit. So in fact, one of the parish missions I give, the second talk, is on technology. And it's not a shutting it down, but it's a firm litmus test of discernment and things. But no one under the age of 30 is going to want to, most people under the age of 30, I should say, aren't going to really catch the church, notice the church, want to talk to the church, unless it pops up while they're scrolling or on a screen in some way or another. Mm-hmm. And what pops up needs to be something that is captivating or meaningful enough for them to want to go a little further. Mm-hmm. So I do think that's super important. And so that's why we have that role here, is to begin to make sure our digital expression of our faith and our outreach is done in a way that is, we have themes here at St. Basil's: joyful, merciful, and faithful. So make sure that those three things are getting out there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also just love that you're focusing on the website too, because, lots of parishes could.
Well, you see, I don't know if it was a template. I don't know how that works, but there's like 80% of parishes have the same template. I think that they went to. I'm like, it was like 1998. They all got a website because everyone had it, and they all just and it's the same thing. But part of it too is like pastors, they're so busy, right? So and I don't know if you know this, most pastors, we don't go on our own website because we know everything going on, because we had to say, yes, you could use that room, or no, you couldn't. So we're not going it. So we don't really think about that. So coming at it from the outside in, that needs to be communicated. And it needs to be shown that it's doable and affordable and will bear fruit. Mm-hmm. If it's doable, affordable, and will bear fruit, bro, you're speaking to a pastor's language right there. And so that's big. But most of the bigger suburban parishes in the Diocese of Cleveland have pretty decent websites or things like that because of that reason, because we're blessed to have people who can make it happen. Our own director of evangelization, Tommy Dome, really spent almost 2 years on our website, researching, studying, looking at what to do, coming up with different ideas. So by the time he helped put it together, we really knew which direction we wanted to go with it. And I like it. Ours looks pretty sharp. And so I didn't do anything with it, but they did. I'm just glad we have
taking the credit.
Yeah. I was up late at night learning coding, and after that, I decided I think I'm going to make a website.
And do you have a podcast?
The parish or me personally?
Well,
do you?
You are on the parish podcast, right?
So, look, someone didn't do their homework. So we have a parish podcast. That's for sure. But then I also have another podcast I do with a priest in Cleveland called Slaking Thirsts. It's with Father Pat Schultz. And all it is uploading our talks and homilies so that people who aren't at our parish could hear our talks and homilies. That's all it is. So it's not like, I guess it's called sawdust in the podcast world. Have you heard this? It's like, so you did work and then the leftovers are what you're putting up there. I don't know. But anyway, so that's what that is. And then our parish podcast, we, Tommy Dome used to do a lot of the interviews and things like that. And now we have Lisa Lopez. She's doing quite a few of them. I just did one interviewing her recently. But now that we have someone in that role who can dedicate more time and energy, we hope to kind of put at least, maybe something out once a week if we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's why she does it. You know? Yeah, I just go in her office and say, here's a bunch of ideas I have, and she writes them down in a notebook. And then about a week later, she's like, when do you want to do those? And I go, what things? And then she tells me what I said, and I go, oh, whatever you want. And then we figure out. So, but she does some great video work. We just did some video work for Lent, and that came out wonderful. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Any questions that we should be asking you? Things we forgot, things we maybe you just want to shout something out.
I wish I had something on the spot. You'd think I'd be better at this. I don't know. Late afternoon, you know, I'm kind of tired.
Get that improv back in.
I know it's sleepy right now. No, I'm going to turn the tables on. I'm going to ask you guys some questions. All right. You've interviewed about 7 or 8 people, it looks like, based on, or at least what's online at this point. All right. What's something you've learned about interviewing people now that you do differently than when you first began?
Just having like a clear idea from the start of like where you kind of want the conversation to go, so you're not just like, I don't even know what I'm gonna ask, like I have no idea where this is going, but having more of a direction than just like, I'm just gonna throw something out there and see what happens.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, yeah. A little pre-planning type of thing helps.
Yes.
You have little guardrails, know where you're going a little bit. That's nice. Very good.
The bowling pins.
Bowling, yeah, 10 Commandments. I don't know if you know this. 10 Commandments are like bumper lanes. And they help you get to the goal. I
don't know about you. Did you learn anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a balance between the like being super, like I'm going to go off these bullet points, to also wanting it to sound more conversational. So it's like, it could just be super relaxed and conversational and make no sense and go nowhere. Or we could have a ton of structure and be like, we're going through these questions.
Yeah,
so
there's a balance.
We want to
sure.
kind of be like in the middle of that.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Also,
You should ask me a question about priest friends. Those are good questions. Say like, why are priest friends so important? Who are your priest friends? I think that'd be a good question to ask, just so you know.
All right, one second. Why are priest friends so important, and why are they good to have?
It's a good question. Yeah, so priest friends are so important because it's the same reason why siblings are important in a family, is that there's no impressing. There's no like, oh, well, your father, or like, hey, father, I got a question. It's just a brother who's just like doing the same thing you are and as busy as you are. And so in one sense, they get you, which is great. So like you can go out to dinner with the priest, man, today was hard. And they don't have to dig too deep. We just get what hard days are like for priests. We get it, right? The flip side of it, it's also someone who's like they're not an authority figure, or they're not someone who needs things from you. They're at your same level. And it keeps you really kind of little and humble and grounded in your humanity, because it's like they're going to make fun of you. They've been with you in the seminary. They've seen your priesthood. They know your gifts. They love you. You're your friends. They also know your weaknesses and your problems. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. We're friends. We're not getting together because we need each other to be holy. We're getting together because we love each other and we enjoy each other's company. And so I got some great priest friends. They make me laugh. They drive me nuts. They're great guys. It's most fun when we get to vacation with them, when we're not like stressed out with our routines. And they also can make me laugh harder than anyone I know. A couple of my priest friends could call in with like a couple minutes on the phone. I'm just hanging up on them because it's just too fun. So yeah, they're really, really important to have good priest friends. In fact, I think someone said one time that studies have shown that priests who really end up struggling, it's not always that their prayer life went away. It's that they didn't have really good priest friends. That was a big indicator in priestly joy and priestly purpose, that they had good friends they could share life with. So it's a good thing.
I know that's super, super important.
Like
just having a good community is...
Well, it's like, how long have you guys been married?
6 months, a little over.
Yeah.
Months,
yeah.
Oh my!
We got married in July.
Oh,
What do you
okay.
want
This
from
is
me?
a whole new set of questions. Buckle up, everyone. We're doing question time this way. All right, but like similar, like you better have some good female friends that you can talk about marriage stuff with.
Yeah.
To be like, am I crazy? Is this just me? Is this what you need to bounce those ideas to understand, like what's normal for me and what's not. Like, why do I feel this way?
No,
What'd you say?
We had girls' night last night, so.
Oh, girls' night last night. So yeah, exactly. That's really important, right? Like it's like, and every husband knows, like, oh, I'm gonna get talked about. Okay, and like, and it's like, and if you don't know that yet, sorry to ruin it for you.
No, I was bragging about him last night.
Yeah, like hopefully they brag, but hopefully there's also times where you're like one-on-one, you can be like, hey, I got a question. Like, how do I handle? It's so important because we're not meant to have all the answers. We're meant to have a community. We're meant to have people. I mean, think about years and years ago, like a village. Everyone knew each other's stuff. But everyone wanted the village to be healthy and happy, so
Yeah.
you held each other accountable. You tried to teach people good ways. You looked to the elders with wisdom. You had friends you just shared carefree times with. You had younger generations you were trying to guide and form, all for the sake of the whole town or village and populace and whatever. So like we need each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fundamental sense in which you are never meant to be strong enough to do it on your own. That's not in the gospel. That's nowhere. You're just never meant to be strong enough. And so you need people. You need people you can lean on and laugh with and share life with, and they can be there for you and you'll be there for them. But you also can't be there for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other key. It's like you actually can't help everyone. It's because there's just too many people. So it's like God gives you some people to really pour into and allow them to pour into you. And that's a real blessing. And hopefully together as a little community, you guys can get to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a Byzantine bishop in the Cleveland area. I forget who it was, but he said, we go to heaven as a we, you go to hell as a me.
Mm.
And so there's a real sense like that community is so important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was bragging about you yesterday.
Okay, tell us on camera something you bragged about.
He made me homemade macaroons for Valentine's Day.
Like those really fancy cookies?
Yes. Yeah, homemade. And the theme of the girls' night was a charcuterie night. And I was like, I need something to bring. And so we had a bunch.
Do you normally respond to him with that intensity?
No.
Because that would be amazing.
Maybe I do. I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yeah, nice.
But I like made the board all fancy and cute, and then I brought it there and everybody's like, oh my gosh, like that's so adorable. I was like, my husband made them. Like, no big deal.
Nice.
And they were very good. Everybody was like, they couldn't get enough.
There's a psychologist who talks about how men and women feel loved towards each other and how they admire each other in a relationship.
5 love languages.
And they said, well, it's kind of, but it's
Gary
a little more.
Chapman.
Well, that's not that, but that's a great book too. But he talks about how women have a point system that if husbands figure it out, they can play the game in their benefit, which is that like she didn't just give you points when you made it. Every time she got to brag about you, she was putting points in her mind about you, right? Because everyone
You like when I brag about
yeah,
you,
and every woman wants to feel like my husband's worthy of being bragged about. So when you're like, he made this, and she's like, boom, 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 boom. All right, points, tons of points, right?
And then when everybody's like, oh my gosh, like that's
Oh
so
yeah,
cute,
she's
I
like, yeah, you
wish."
know, like you get it. Yeah, it's a huge thing. And so when guys start realizing it's not just one-to-one, like I did this nice thing, so she liked it. That's part of the point. That's like boop boop. But then when she gets to like show her friends off what she did, it's like boop 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 boop. And then they're like, that is amazing. You have such a good husband. Then it's like, like that's how that works. So isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's how it works.
Yeah. See, so that's
You just explained a woman's mind.
Yeah. How about that? So that should be a priest explains a woman's mind. That could be that video.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't
What
know.
else do you want to know? Anything?
I don't know. What did you want to know about us? You were like surprised we were only married for 6 months.
I guess
Sorry
I
to
did. Well, I just didn't know
disappoint.
how long you've been doing these interviews because I was watching. I did my research on you guys to see your style.
Oh, okay.
You're more talkative in this one than other ones I've noticed, by the way, which I appreciated.
I'm more talkative.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. You're less than in other interviews. So I don't know what my.
Some interviews, like I don't know. It's just I'm
This is
glad
the
that there's
third
a
one of
co-host.
the day. It's
Yeah,
That's
this
a
is-
lot.
I
I got the
this is
leftovers, is what you're telling me. Yeah, you're
No,
like warmed
I'm
up.
fuming.
No, you're
more
just coming alive.
energetic
Yeah,
now.
you're coming
I don't
alive.
know why.
But they're like warm gravy for you. Putting warm gravy on some reheats and just eating it up
yeah,
here.
I've gone into my hibernation.
Yeah, I get it. Nice. Yeah. Here's a question for you guys. Ready?
Yeah.
These are questions I ask newly married couples a lot. All right. We'll start with this one. There's 8 billion people in the world, let's say. Let's say 4 billion are guys.
Mhm.
Out of all 4 billion, you chose him. Why him to be your husband?
That's a big question.
That is a big question.
It
But
doesn't
I
have to be
mean,
the only reason, but a reason why you
Mhm.
chose him.
well, we were dating for marriage, and God put us together. Like, we had known each other before, but when we decided to start dating, it was like the perfect moment, and everything was just so aligned. Our morals were aligned, our values, and you were like everything that I was looking for, like in a husband. You just like checked all the boxes and more. So
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Nice, yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm flipping around. 8 billion people in the world, 4 billion are women. Let's say some of them are married, but nonetheless, you could have chose anyone you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
What about her? Why her?
And, I mean, it does have to go along with timing. I finally, there's this week, we started dating the week that I finally was able to give porn over to God fully and like just completely, okay, that's in the past, never again. And that plus a ton of different things leading up to engagement was like, this is it. Like, I have been looking for a type of love that I've never been able to find or receive or get. And God's like showing me this, like, this is it. Like, this is what you're trying to find in these other things. And this is what true love and what self-gift actually looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a great question. That's a good answer. And a follow-up question for you. What was the effect porn had on you that would have made it very difficult in order to see her as a gift?
You can't see with porn.
Nice.
So
yeah,
you just view it completely differently. And I mean, the best way to describe it is you can't see with porn.
Yeah.
So like there's these scales over your eyes, or you're blinded. Like, there's so many things that you can't. And that goes for everything, for her, for just different experiences in life, like
Mm-hmm.
being able to acknowledge and take in and to receive just the joys of life.
Probably would have been, like you said, it probably would have been hard to even be loved by her.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So with porn comes the weapon of shame of the enemy as well. So I'm bad, I'm awful, I'm never enough, no one can ever love me, I'm not a gift. All these type of internally felt things, not always conscious, but felt. That, like, let's say she was doting on you and loving you, there would have been a wall where you couldn't have received the love in the places that you actually needed to receive love.
Mm-hmm.
So she couldn't actually be the gift because there would have been this wall based on fear and pain and shame and wounds and all these things, all the lies. And so as you get rid of that, what starts coming to the surface is the detox of the deeper systems. Now, the porn is the major symptom, right? The porn is always the bigger symptom of whether there was deeper struggles. You even mentioned, like, the kind of love I needed and was looking for. Like, I was struggling with, I'm not loved, I'm not good, I'm alone, no one's there for me. Deeper stuff that starts to get healed, not through an idea, but once again, through a very human experience of the love of another. And so Jesus saves us, but he tends to save us through people. And so you begin to experience his grace and love through the beauty that leads to marriage and all these things. So that's really wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. All right, another question for you guys. All right. Been married 6 months.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise. Oh, I didn't know this would be a part of it. This was surprising. And I'll give you an answer that one of my friends gave me. I'm not going to mention their names just in case they'd watch this, although I know they're not going to. She said, I was surprised how much sleep my husband needs. He needs way more than I do. And she goes, I was surprised at that. He said, I was surprised to learn that every time we cuddle on the couch didn't mean we were going to have sex that night. And so that was what they said was their biggest surprises. Okay?
That did surprise you.
Yeah. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
This leads to that. Come on.
Yeah, that's just how this
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, they said he had to learn. It was a learning curve. So these are some of the surprises. But what are some of yours?
I don't know. I would say, like, how people reacted, not necessarily with our relationship, but just like us doing things the Catholic way, I guess, of like, we're not living together before we're married. We're waiting to have sex before we were married. And like all of these things that everybody knows you're supposed to do. But then when we were actually doing it, everybody's like, whoa, like, that's weird. Why are you doing that? And like, it just kind of put people off. And yeah, that was very surprising to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I really like is the reaction to NFP.
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's a weird
How
one.
you guys going to plan your family? Like, what's going on? It's like, oh, natural family planning. Huh?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I'll see your 12 kids soon. Like,
Right, yeah.
like this whole like negative mindset around it. And even like with doctors, when you would go to, I don't even know what that doctor's called, but like they don't even really know. Like, what even is that? Oh, you do some sort of thermometer thing or rhythm or, that type of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, if you did do a little bit more diving, you would see that there is science to it and like that it actually works. And
Totally.
like, you don't just put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound by taking the pill every single day and work
awesome.
with the body. So I think that's just like a beautiful thing to be able to see because I love asking questions. And so like, why is your body doing that? Why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And so then being able to fully and more deeply understand her as a woman by going through NFP is super powerful. Because a lot of the times it's like, if they are going to do NFP, maybe the husband's like not doing anything about it. He's just like, come on, like, tell me when. Like, when can we start going again? Like, come on. And I'm very like, okay, I'm going to set out the little test thing.
Yeah,
and then
that's
you're going to
really
do
sweet
this.
that you
And
do that.
like, I'm the one emailing the little like support person that we have for the training. And it's like, what the heck's going on here? Like, this thing happened, but then like her period's like delayed or something. And then like ovulation probably happened, but I'm not quite sure. And I'm sure that the support person was like, oh my gosh.
This guy's really into this.
Yeah,
Maybe they
you do. Yeah, you do.
You know, the neat thing about that is a couple of things is like a woman's cycle is connected to the moon. I don't know if you ever thought about that. We are on a lunar calendar, and so your cycle is connected to the phases of the moon. So there's something really powerful about all of creation orbits in a certain way, and a woman's fertility is at the heart of this orbiting. So you're the sign.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so we have a lunar calendar, right? It's based on phases of the moon, and you have a calendar of your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a beauty of a woman's fertility and the whole phases of the moon, which in biblical understanding would have been the phases and the movings of the heavens. So the heavens of the stars and the moons and things are manifested in our humanity through the fertility of a woman.
That's
And
crazy.
so you could then say, zoom out again, and you have God the Creator wanting to stamp onto creation rhythms and phases, how? Around life.
Mm-hmm.
And every woman is a sign pointing to the woman, Mary, and her fertility, which is Christ. And as we see in the book of Revelations 12, the enemy attacks, trying to attack the woman's offspring. And it says he couldn't get her because she was protected in a special way by God. So it says the enemy then goes to make war against all of those who believe in the name of Jesus and keep his commandments. So the disciples, all of us. So the enemy is cast to earth to then go after all of them. So, but where's he always trying to attack? Our experience of fertility. And so to have a husband care about your fertility, not as a biological reduction, but as the experience of my wife and our family and our life together, there's a real sense of all of me is being welcomed and loved.
Mm-hmm.
And you're learning how to direct all your energies and things to protect, bless, and enhance her overall. And so the union that you guys are kind of creating is a beautiful sign of how does Christ love the church, his bride? Well, he loves every part of her, all the things of the church, every part of the human person he's invested in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all impregnated with meaning. And so it becomes a really beautiful symbol of what that all looks like. So
Yeah,
that's great.
definitely.
For sure. And I think the abstinence thing, a lot of people view it as like this negative, like, oh gosh, this is so terrible. And like, why would you ever want to go through that? But there's also this beauty of like not being able to, if you're trying to like not get pregnant at the time, to abstain for a certain amount of time during the cycle. It's like there's this beauty of not being able to always be like, okay, let's go have sex. It's like, no, I want more from you than just like your body. I want to be, I want to know you deeper than just that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a way also where, I mean, like it communicates love, right? So if you can't say no, your yes means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't give what you don't possess. So if you don't possess your own sexuality, but it possesses you through compulsion, you can't give it as a gift. And if I can't say no to my urges, then my yes means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a concrete expression to your spouse that, no, I'm growing in self-mastery so that I can give myself even all the more sincerely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why hopefully sex life and intimacy in couples gets better over time. Why? Well, with greater vulnerability and greater conversations and prayer, but also virtue and self-mastery, you're able to give yourself as a gift all the more, I guess the proper word would be potently, but like in all the levels of the human person, because you're growing in self-awareness, self-possession, and then self-gift. And so the grace of your sacrament is precisely to help you guys grow in that ability. And that becomes like over time just a great blessing. And then also like the more life you share together, you'll have joyful mysteries and glorious mysteries, but you're going to have sorrowful mysteries. And the more you make it through those together, when you come together, there's all the more the tender embracing of all of you and everything we've been through together. And we're renewing our union, which makes manifest Christ's love for his church, which is the way through with the one flesh union with Jesus in the Eucharist. We then enter into the eternal exchange of the Trinity. And so you get to embody that in such beautiful ways. And of course, none of this beauty comes apart from the cross. So there's ways we have to die to yourself still. There's ways we have to make great self-sacrificial gifts. And all of that purifying, though, is so that you learn to really be great like at loving, which is, another way to say it is to be great at being like God. And so like marriage is the great school for that for you guys. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the point of marriage is to get each other into heaven. Like, that's the goal.
Dom doesn't seem convinced of that.
I was thinking about a different thing, but yeah, I know.
Caught you off guard. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's awesome.
What were you gonna say? You were thinking about
I
something
was
else.
thinking about the like unique things that you noticed. I don't know. You didn't want me to mention this one before, but you said it was kind of fine for me to mention it, so I'm just gonna mention it.
I love this so much. It can always be edited out, you know?
No, we pretend it's live, so it's okay. No, it's like these little habits that I noticed that I would have never known. For example, like when she puts on a bra, she does this like boob tuck thing, and so
Nice.
that's one of them.
Yeah, I do that.
That's one of my favorite ones.
You're very red. Yeah.
Your face
I like that
is
he just
so
said that.
red.
I like that he just said that's one of my favorite ones. So, yeah.
I don't know what it is like about.
Did you have any sisters growing up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's a freshman right now.
Because I was wondering.
Sophomore. She's a sophomore, Dom.
Oh yeah, that's right. She's a sophomore.
Oh my gosh, we love
we'll
you,
edit
Char.
this out.
Well, the other thing is like, because I was wondering, because if you didn't have sisters, I'm wondering like an even more fascination with femininity. So you'd be like related because like maybe you didn't have any sisters, but you had sisters, so that's different. Because you're obviously very noticeable. You're very observant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So
Yeah. Is my face still red? Thanks for doing that.
just a touch. It looks like
I'm
blush
very
now.
Irish, so I wear
Yeah.
all of my emotions
So here's
on my face.
a last question from me for you guys. All right. If you were to give priests any advice, what would you give us?
Jeez.
My first like instinct to that is, or reaction is like to be relatable. Like, I don't know, just tell it like it is. Don't sugarcoat the stuff. Like, yeah, definitely.
Candidness, straightforwardness.
Yeah. For sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
getting
the
to
Irish in you.
the
Irish, yes.
realness.
That's great. Dom, how about you?
I don't even know. Like, I feel like it's not my place to give advice to a priest.
Oh, I'm asking though. The priest is asking, so now you're being disobedient. I mean, how
gosh.
rude are you being now? You know.
Yeah, then, I mean, that makes sense. No, the only thing that's coming to mind is that like when I got here, it has nothing to do with like any advice. It's just like it's so like just he's like, yeah, dude, I'll show you this, and like let's go check out the office. It's pretty cool, and check this
You're my
media
long
room
lost
out.
cousin. Like,
Yeah, it's like it was a very like, dang, this is sweet. Like I just got invited into the family without like 3 seconds.
But hey, we put you on the calendar. Once you're on the calendar here at St. Basil's, you're in, buddy.
Oh, there we go.
So, yeah, getting on the calendar can be hard, but once you're on, you're in. So
Yeah, but advice for a priest?
do you ask this question often?
I never have.
You've never okay.
I'm just glad you guys came on my talk show today so I can interview you.
Yeah.
Think about, like Father Eric and Father Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
They're real train wrecks. So think about what you tell them to help them out.
Okay.
They're some of my priest friends.
That helps me out.
Yeah.
Especially your father.
The Father Jacob's fashion sense isn't great. That lion shirt he had on me as interviewed him.
I feel like I'm just burning time. Retention's going down the drain. So I just have to go like along what she said is like an honesty and like a read the room where you can like really be brutally honest with that person.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
Talking about the difficult topics.
I feel like I mean, going back onto the porn thing, it's been a problem for like since I was really young. And so like going into confession, and I feel like the priest back then didn't handle it in a way that like the 8-year-old or 10-year-old me or whatever needed to be handled. And it was like, oh gosh, like I got to hide this thing, like whatever. And then like later on going to confession, I felt like, yeah, that, I don't know, like it's just like hit me with it. Like what do I need to do? But the 10-year-old me got hit when he didn't need to get hit.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, so I would call that ministry of accompaniment. Like you have to learn how to accompany people.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk to an 8-year-old struggling with some grave evil very differently than a 17-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to take into consideration, like, what is this person's capacity right now? Like, do they have very little faith and it's a miracle even the confessional? Well, we might want to soften the conversation about porn and really talk about sacraments and a life of faith and like, it's so good you're here. What's your prayer life like? Do you have a community? You may want to like backpedal one thing to emphasize you're just starting to come to the church. Perhaps some of these things are going to dissipate a little bit as you just live the life of faith. So accompaniment is an art, and it's really what we're called to do as priests more than anything else is to, in other words, just father or shepherd or company. These are all the same, interchangeable. But it's really about like, how do you preach the truth in love? But in love means like, I take the person into consideration. Love is never generic. So the way I might preach a truth to you one-on-one would be different than I preach it to you one-on-one. Because you're different persons, you're different hearts, different capacities, gifts, different places in your own journey. So like, for us as priests, we always need to be working on that, because sometimes we can just get generic slogan priests and we can turn into just be like, do good, avoid evil, and keep praying and fasting when you need to. It's like, okay, thanks. We're just like, well, we said, sometimes we're tired and we are. But then sometimes it can be like, we can try to be overly accommodating to the person, like, and it's like, well, there's just some basics in Christian life that everyone needs to be doing. Like, you got to be reading the Bible, you got to pray, you got to go to sacraments, you got to have Christian community, you got to do something for the poor, got to forgive your enemies. I mean, there's just some basic things we need to do as disciples. So as priests, like, I know I always need to work on that, is being overly generic and being like overly accommodating, to have that nice balance of how do you call someone to holiness and yet also meet them with immense mercy and kindness. It's not easy, but it's really what we're called to be, all of us really, but especially as those who carry the title Father.
For sure. Like right now, I feel like I want that Padre Pio, like let's fist fight the devil. Back then, not so much.
Yeah. And we'll go through seasons, and this is one part of you. But let's say you go into a priest and you start talking about whatever's going on in your life when you started looking at porn at 8 and 10 years old. That little Dom does not want intense Padre Pio. The little Dom that's still in your heart, those parts of you need a really sweet, caring wife, and probably need a father figure like your spiritual director you mentioned earlier to be really kind to you and saying, let's just bring the Father's love right there for a little bit and see how that part of your heart unfreezes and warms and opens up. So the different parts of our hearts need different things. And that's the other thing you're listening to is like, really this part of this person is really intense. Is that authentic, or is it a part because underneath that they feel really, really weak? And so they're kind of compensating because they feel uncomfortable. Like, what's actually going on right now? And I found the human heart is one of the most beautiful things in the whole world. But getting someone to share it with you takes a lot of trust and vulnerability and care. And they'll only do it when they feel like they won't hurt me. Yeah. That I'm safe here. And we say that to the Lord in the Psalms. Lord, you're my refuge. Like, meaning you're my safe place. I don't have to have any airs. I can just be open. And then it's like that. The community of saints is the most vulnerable community in the world. And they're full of deep love because they're sharing in the Trinity. And then we're on the way, but we can never be naive. In this world, we're all a little broken, so we have to have a little bit of protection. But yeah, we're all on the way. But Jesus says, unless you turn and become like little children, you can't enter the kingdom. Little children are totally open. They don't have the games yet. So unless you turn and become totally open, vulnerable, trusting, straightforward, honest, like fully dependent, like you can't enter the kingdom. So there's a real sense of like, ooh, there's places in us like, I like being safe, and this doesn't feel very safe. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a great place to start prayer from. So yeah, it's really nice. Beautiful.
Cheering you on again.
I could just, if you just cut back and forth, if you edit all these, just I say something and she goes, yes. Then I say, she goes, yes. That'd be amazing. So, well, my self-esteem was low, and then I met you too, and this is very great. So now it's nice and high, and it was a great day for me.
Awesome. I'm glad the leftover gravies was just
you added some salt and pepper at the end there, Don. It really came to life. So.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was great to be. Thanks for coming on
Yeah.
my show as well.
Oh,
Of
okay,
course,
no
of
problem.
course, anytime.